Welcome back to Movie Monday, not your typical movie review. This is a movie guns review, or breakdown rather. So quick summary of the movie, maybe a little bit of spoilers because this one for today is a little older, so there might be some spoilers in there, and then we'll dive into the firearms used in the movie. Now, if you're like me, you're watching a movie, sitting on the couch, enjoying your popcorn, nice cold beverage, and you see a bunch of different firearms in a movie, and maybe you think, wow, that's pretty cool, that looks good. Why is that in this movie? What is that there? Where's the optic? Why are there no iron sights? What are they shooting with? Whoa, whoa.
Here I come. Oh, here I come.
Oh. All that is part of the movie experience. And I think this is a good series to jump into. So, with that being said, today's movie is Baby Driver from 2017.
Doc said Michael Myers.
This is Mike Myers.
It should be the Halloween mask.
This is a Halloween mask.
No, the killer dude from Halloween.
Oh, you mean Jason?
No!
Action thriller, heist, criminal organization type of movie with a star-studded cast. That's right, Ansel Elgort, Lily James, John Hamm, Kevin Spacey, Jamie Foxx, Jon Bernthal, love that dude, CJ Jones, and many more familiar faces. This is a fun one, guys. So essentially, there's this crime organization led by Kevin Spacey. And with that, you have Baby, who is, Baby Driver, right? And that's Ansel. And he is the driver to go to these different heists, whether it's a bank or a post office or whatever it is. He is the driver, and he's actually paying off Kevin's character because he stole a car with a bunch of money and years ago, and now he owes Kevin all this money. So that's kind of the backdrop for those two main characters. And there's several crews, which you'll see like Jamie Foxx and Jon Bernthal and all them throughout the movie, who go and do different heists and robberies and things like that. And of course, there's a ton of firearms used in this movie and some interesting flips throughout the movie that were kind of errors, I think, in the placement of certain firearms. So we'll talk about that. Pretty interesting there. But it's a great movie. It's a lot of fun. Came out in 2017. We saw it in theaters, I think. This is before the pandemic, back when going to the theater was cool. It still is. I do like the theater. But that being said, it was a great movie. Just kind of one of those fun movies. A lot of good music in it. So if you're into the heist movies, if you're into more like bank robberies and all these fun characters in there, it's more of a comedy, really, than a serious heist movie. But it is a lot of fun. Definitely go check it out. But without further ado, in really the first half of this movie is very heavy on the shotgun side. So I thought it'd be good to talk about the shotguns first. The bank robbers use a variety of shotguns. Some I've actually never even seen or heard of before, but they make sense. And some of them are very hard to find, a little more rare. So let's talk about a couple of them. So for example, one of the ones they use is the Mossberg 590 Mariner. Now, I have a Mossberg 500, runs great. It's actually one of the old zombie editions. Also have one of the Mossberg Shockwaves, both of course in 12 gauge. Now Shockwave is closer to some of the pistol grip style shotguns you see in this movie. Pretty hard to hold, hard to handle, kind of tough to really aim well, but with some practice, you really can do pretty well without shouldering anything. And of course, there's a really funny scene where they get Mike Myers and they're like, I want the Halloween mask. And there's like, you bought Mike Myers from Austin Powers. And that was pretty good.
Doc said Michael Myers.
This is Mike Myers.
It should be the Halloween mask.
This is a Halloween mask.
No, the killer dude from Halloween.
Oh, you mean Jason?
No!
One of the characters has a Remington, specifically a Remington 870 MSC Master Key. Real short, almost like a revolver type of grip there. I have heard of a Master Key before. I've never really seen one in real life. Very unique pistol shotgun. Another more interesting choice for a shotgun that you see towards the end during one of the heists by Jamie Foxx there is actually the Serbu Super Shorty, and has a very interesting drop down like hand foregrip there in the front. So it makes it look like when he's holding it out there, he's like holding it out like a pistol, and it's like, oh wow, is that a mag or something from the angle? But yeah, it's like a grip. And of course, Kevin Spacey, the head honcho of this criminal organization in Ithaca, which I've never seen before, but it's called an Ithaca 37 Stakeout. Now, Ithaca is a very famous shotgun brand, been around a long time, and this is a good choice, I think. Just kind of a, kind of a rustic, kind of more older designed shotgun, wood, all that kind of fun stuff. An off-duty Marine happens to be in his truck in the same parking lot that they go, and one of these heists happen where they rob an armored truck. He's there. He busts out two really cool firearms. It was kind of unique, and both H and K, so Heckler and Kochs. We have an MP5K, and it was interesting to see in this scene because I was like, oh wow, he has a full auto stashed in his center console. The MP5K just busts out, and I'm like, I don't know if everyone has those just lying around, but not full auto, that's for sure. Now I have, of course, an AP5P. Love that thing. Just got a Mac 5 in, which is the longer 8.9 inch full-size MP5, right? Fantastic guns, shoot really well. A lot of fun, makes sense to have. It's, you get a lot of firepower behind that. And of course, it's 9mm, but such a smooth action with that roller delayed. But of course, he also has an HK-45 in his glove box there. He grabs and starts letting loose on these armed robbers as they run away. So it's a nice tactical option there. Now, up until now, it's pretty standard firearms, how they kind of lay them out and what's used throughout the movie, right? Well, about halfway through the movie, maybe a little bit over halfway, we have a meetup with robbers meeting up with bad cops, right? So paid off cops from Kevin Spacey. It's his cops, he calls them, and they meet up because he sends them to the bad cops who have a bunch of illegally collected weapons from the streets or whatever it was.
Voila! Welcome to La Chacatari.
All these crates of guns and grenades and ridiculous things that the prop department just threw all this stuff in there. But there's some interesting ones in there, just looking through the quick snapshots they have of these firearms in the crates with hay and all that in there, all the straw they put in there too. But what ends up happening, of course, is a big shootout, and a lot of the guns are used or grabbed, and then you see them throughout the rest of the movie, some of which seem to be switched out without explaining kind of how they were switched out, or maybe they thought we wouldn't notice. It was kind of interesting. But let's talk about some of the stuff we saw in the crate real quick. M67 baseball hand grenades. Yep, a whole bunch of hand grenades. Probably about the same price as you get for eggs right now in the carton. And they come in nice cartons as well, which is good to see. A few Colt Model 733s in there. Fairly generic ARs. Spotted a SIG SG552. That's right, the Swiss AK. A lot of my buddies are getting these recently. I don't have one, but honestly, I probably should soon get one because I remember seeing them when they were still making them like 15 years ago at SIG. I remember seeing them brand new in the stores, and they're like a good deal. And I was like, oh, who would want one of these? They're kind of heavy, this and that. Of course, they're in movies and video games and all that, but now they're super expensive and they don't make them anymore. So SIG 556, pretty neat to see. They don't actually use it, but it's in the crate. And of course, AKs. The bad guy gun of choice. Several variants of AKs in there. Of course, I love my Zastavas. I have my PSAs. I have my FB Radom Baril. Great, love a good AK. JB Fox picked up one of the AK underfolders to use against all of the bad cops when they just went crazy and broken out into gunfire. The MP7s, there are a few in some crates all packed up nice. That's the gun that seems to be top of mind for a lot of folks these days. I think HK actually talked about they might be getting ready to bring that to the US, so that would be very interesting to see because I've only shot them in passing. I've never owned one or really had a lot of time behind one, but they are pretty cool. An Ingram Mac 10, it can be seen at one point with one of the cops shooting back at the criminals. I don't know if there's any kind of in the rest of the crates there, but at least that was in there. You might actually grabbed it from the crate off screen, but that was kind of neat to see. One of the cops also picks up an M&P shield from Smith & Wesson, which was interesting. When do you see those in movies, even though they were super popular? I have the Gen 1, I have the Plus now as well. Great for concealed carry. Love that handgun. And with that, it's kind of interesting, like that's the gun that he had, maybe he grabbed it as a backup or something, but yeah, little slimline 9 shield makes an appearance from one of the cops there. That was interesting to see. Also in the crate, you have some 1911s, love a good 45. I have a World War II Remington Rand that I shoot quite often and take very good care of because I really do love that particular handgun. It has some history behind it, all original, and it was just a crazy time, made in the spring of 1944, I believe. Also in the crate, real quick, and one of the quick glances that you see, Walther P99, the predecessor to the PDQ and now the PDP. The Walther P99 was a James Bond gun back in the 90s, early 2000s, and they kind of ran with that for a while there. Really interesting gun to shoot. Of course, I have one. It's a lot of fun. I'm not sure if I'm in love with it. I need to do a full review on it and show you guys a little bit, but the trigger is really weird. There's not really a good breaking point to really kind of tell when you need to pull back in there, and they have a decocker, so it's a double action, single action. So what it is a decocker on the top of the slide, which is seen in a couple of James Bond movies. He goes and he clicks it, and I don't know why he would do that, but I guess it's to put it into safe, which is a longer double action trigger. Really interesting trigger, kind of weird, but that was a different time, and I've never experienced any other handgun like that, especially with a decocker on top of the slide. But I do need to do a full review on it still. And of course, there's another Glock in there, the Glock 26, and a few other Glocks in there. And of course, I have the Ruger RXM, which is kind of my Glock go-to right now, being a Glock clone. I've mentioned in other videos I need to actually get a Glock to show you guys on camera how they shoot. But the RXM shoots great. I've shot a bunch of Glocks before. I just don't own an actual Glock, surprisingly. During that shootout, Jamie Foxx, Bats is his character, and he's kind of crazy. He's really the reason why a lot of the movie kind of goes and spirals out of control after the whole cop shootout, because he caused that whole shootout because he sensed there were cops, because he wasn't in the know about that. He actually has a Smith & Wesson that he runs for that, most of that scene, really. And it's a 4566, which I've never even shot before, but they were actually very famous 20, 30 years ago as police guns. And that one would have been in 45 ACP. Now there's a Kimber Ultra Raptor. That's a 45 1911 style handgun. Now in the shootout, it's actually wielded by Darling, who is Buddy, who is John Hamm's kind of girl, right? His girlfriend, as it were. And she wields that throughout that whole scene. But then Baby gets that gun, and that's the gun he has, and eventually shoots John Hamm's character with that gun. So it's kind of interesting that kind of follows along. And they seem like they stick to that gun, the exact same one from Darling over to Baby. And Darling doesn't have a handgun. She actually grabs two SIG MPXs. Great choice. They're kind of fun, right? They're light, they're easy to handle. Now, the only thing is, later on in the movie, we'll talk about this in a minute here, but she dual wields these things without any optics or red dots on there. So I was like, ugh, why? Why are you doing this? But she's dual wielding them. And, you know, if you shoot an MP5, which is very similar to the MPX, you'll know that they're really heavy. It's kind of hard to hold out an arm stretch length. And if you could just shoulder it, or even have just one we can hold out, you're gonna have much better accuracy, easier to aim. You won't get as fatigued. And those things have got to weigh a lot after a while, especially for maybe her build to be hold up both of those like that. But she was badass, so what can we say? Lastly, in that shootout in that warehouse with the bad cops versus the criminals, right? Buddy, who is John Hamm's character, has a SIG P250 compact in a two-tone color. He uses that entire scene, and you'd anticipate him to continue to use that, but he doesn't. Unlike the rest of the guns you see in this movie, where they're using it in the shootout and then move on through like the third act and run, he actually switches it up. And funny enough, I think the 250 we just talked about in the Gorge movie review just a couple of weeks ago. So you haven't checked that one out. The Gorge on Apple TV was fantastic. John switches over to the SIG P229, which is the compact, smaller brother of the 226. I love my 226. So the P226 9mm, it's a very, very nice handgun, shoots really smooth. I have a West German model made in the 80s, and it just kind of has a little bit more of that historic piece to it, as well as just being a great shooter, really worn in very well. The scene with John Hamm in that diner at the end with the newspaper, and he has the 229 under the newspaper, and he's just talking with Baby and Baby's girl, and it was just that scene. The first time we saw that movie, I was like, you're just staring at like, wow, like this is really, really good. Like they just did a great job filming that. Atlanta PD is running Smith & Wesson M&Ps. That was cool to see. You don't see a lot of M&Ps, so we're seeing a lot of M&Ps in this particular movie, and I have an M&P 2.0 compact. Love that thing, still runs great. All these years later, I think I got it when it first came out, the 2.0, which is what, 5 years ago, 6, 7 years, whatever it was. They started kind of revamping the whole line. But then you have John Hamm's character, and he is rocking an AR like nobody's business. He does some good reloads here. It's a lot of fun watching him. I think he did pretty good in terms of more tactical movements. He's hiding behind cars and trying to be more tactical and kind of move around different barriers. Now he's rocking in that whole scene a PWS, a primary weapon system MK1. That's 5.56 with an EOTech, a stock of 4 on there. Standard 5.56. In fact, that one in particular is more of a high quality type of model, that PWS there. So he has some class, it looks like, a little more upper tier level of firearms that he has and he wants to use. So it was a good choice there. Now the PWS is his main rifle, but in a couple of scenes, it looks like they actually switched it out for a rubberized version, but it was a rubberized version of the Daniel Defense MK18. So it's a little bit different than the PWS. They probably had it on hand. So they have the rubberized versions when they need to have something they can wield around and fling around when they're not actually doing any kind of blank live firing, right? So they have these rubberized versions, and I'm thinking that they just had that and it looked very similar, so they just ran with it. And that's Baby Driver, the guns used in the movie. If you haven't seen this movie, guys, go and check it out. It is fantastic. I think it's on Netflix right now. It's probably about to leave. I think I saw it was leaving soon. That's kind of why I caught it again. I think we've seen it a few times now. And every time, it's just a fun ride. It's just a fun movie. Sure, there's plot holes. Where are there not plot holes nowadays? But 2017, which feels like an absolute lifetime ago, has some cool movies still, and that was one of the more entertaining ones from that year. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions at all about anything you've seen in this video, anything about the movie, anything about the firearms used, I've shot a lot of them, hit them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. As always, train hard. You never know what's coming. Take care of the ones you love. Those are the ones that matter, and we'll see you on the next Movie Monday.